This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back, WFO. Hopefully you guys are great after Thanksgiving, feeling all fat like I am. I ate a lot. Hopefully you did too. We're going to have a great week. We're going to work it all off, getting moving, getting motivated. We've got NHRA's Alan Reinhart going to join us a few minutes from now. It's already been a pretty busy day/week for me. Hopefully those of you who follow our social media, Twitter and our WFO radio app with the push notifications, et cetera, and so on, were able to check out the eparttrade.com seminar this morning with Ron Capps and Antron Brown. That was fun. Spent an hour with those two champion drivers, just talking about the sport, promoting the sport, talking about what they've done, accomplished, why Camping World Drag Racing is such a big deal. As you know, a lot of the trade shows that normally go on this time of year, PRI and SEMA, et cetera, were all canceled because of the pandemic we're still living through. But the folks at ePartTrade did a good job. They invited me to come on and host some seminars, some of them having to deal with NHRA Camping World Drag Racing, and we had a good time at 9 a.m. this morning, or 10 a.m. this morning. There is another one later on this afternoon. It is absolutely free, and since I'm hosting, I don't mind promoting for you guys, and I think there will be a couple of people that you will be interested in watching. Ron Tobler, Jim Oberhofer, Nikki Bonafonte, and Kurt Elliott. So what have those guys all done and won championships and U.S. Nationals? They're all Nitro crew chiefs. It's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 Pacific. And we're going to have all those guys for 50 minutes. That's on eparttrade.com. So if you happen to like NHRA Drag Racing, which I would imagine you do here on WFO, then you will head over to there. You can sign up for free, and it's a seminar. It's pretty cool. We're doing it on Zoom. They're doing it on Zoom, but you can watch on YouTube, and it is a lot of fun. All right, we got Alan Reiner a couple minutes away. We're going to talk about Cruz Pedregon, the John Collins move. We didn't quite get to that last week, not in its entirety, because last week was a tough week. We had a bunch of just bad news, negative stories. We spent a lot of time on that and kind of worked our way out of it, thinking about Randy, thinking about others. And that's the whole point of WFO. We meet back here once a week and get together. On Wednesday, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, Brian Warner going to be on the show. We're going to get back into our parade of champions with the Superstock World Champ in the Lucas Oil Series and see what else we can add. We do have a couple of weeks till Christmas, as we are now in December, the final month, hopefully not of the final year, the way it has been going. I do want to tell you guys about the people who make it all possible. Here at the start of the show, I like to get hyped up about the fact that I'm able to do a show. Like, why on earth am I able to do this, to connect with Alan and connect with these race car drivers and promote and love the sport of drag racing with all of you guys in the WFO universe? And it's because of people like Marvin Rodak, honestly, a drag racing fan who sponsors the show. So I will talk about how great his coffee is and occasionally bring in a prop. I always talk about how getting a bag of Rodak's coffee is an amazing experience and how you can get it for the holidays, etc. This is the Locked and Loaded Organic, one of his, and I am just enjoying the heck out of it. So if you ever wonder, like, what is Castello drinking? This is what I'll be doing for the next, I don't know, I would say at least a month, maybe a month and a half, as I grind my own and love it. But he's got hot sauces and spice rubs. And so imagine when your loved one who loves coffee opens up a box from Rodax and gets that. They're going to love it. And there is no doubt that he loves drag racing because there's a funny car on there that says Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. Thank you, Marvin, for your support. 817-924-6821. Also, they just finished a seminar on the ePart Trade deal. Keith Jones from Total Seal, Matt Hartford, Lake Speed, that whole team over there, getting everybody up on Ring Seal. And it's been amazing to do the Hidden Horsepower podcast and just learn about Ring Seal and how it has evolved and just how important it is, frankly. We're speaking to Jody Lang a couple of weeks ago in the champion interview talking about Ring Seal. It's what makes a stock eliminator car go, period. Amazing stuff. Go to TotalSeal.com. You can find the podcast, all kinds of great information. And most importantly, rings for the next engine you build. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Frank Atlanta. The next Dragster adventure will be after it is 2021, but I think it is a great gift for the holidays. If you really want to wow someone, send them on a once-in-a-lifetime experience, frankhawley.com, the Dragster Adventure, or who knows, get your own license. Go out there and do that deal and drive an alcohol funny car. Who knows what you are able to do, but Frank's ready no matter what it is. He's ready for you. Go to frankhawley.com. Also, samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. This is for the next generation of engine builders and machinists and crew guys. It's a great education, great place to start down there in Houston, Texas. And finally, the folks at Nitrofish Racing, Randy Lynn and Bo. Great stuff. You can actually go get to Nitrofish Racing through the WFO store on our WFOradio.com page. There's a promo code WFO20 there. It's going to save you 20% on all the gear at Nitrofish Racing. But I'm pretty proud of the WFO store because we have put a lot of different interesting gift ideas for drag racing fans for the holidays, right? Like if you want to get something drag racing or NHRA themed for the holidays and doing the Amazon associate link, I'll give you a perfect example. Like 10 years ago, John Jadoga was on the show to promote this book, this amazing coffee table book. Like if you love drag racing art and all of this, which I do, it's just candy to be around the house. You can now get this off WFOradio.com and check out the WFO store. It is very cool. And we're growing. We're doing our best. We're trying to figure out how to survive in the cruel world that is out there right now. But one thing that is known and exciting to me is that on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, we get to speak with NHRA's Alan Reinhart. We're going to dive in right now. And I think he's got some good news. Alan, how are you? Did you eat all the turkey?
Well.
Did you eat all?
Well, all was good. I actually had kind of a quiet Thanksgiving, with big gatherings being discouraged. So just kind of laid low, and I did have turkey, but it was a nice quiet Thanksgiving.
I love
all was well over here. And by the way, you were talking about Christmas. All the time, people like, I want to get Reinhart something, but I just don't know what to get him. He's got everything.
Yeah.
A Foot Locker full of hundreds.
Foot Locker full of $100 bills, $100 bills. Because knowing the drag racers, they'll print out a bunch of the number that says hundred, and just throw them in there. You need to say they're bills. This is a very specific audience. I like that. And you get into the spirit. You do the holiday tasting, the Scotch tasting.
I do, and I'm going to do that again this year. I was kind of thinking about it with all the stuff that's going on, but really it's not even really a gathering. It's, an open house, and people drift in and out throughout the course of the day, and it's pretty easy to stay socially distanced. And as a general rule, it's not like there's going to be 20 people here at one time. People just kind of drift in and out throughout the course of the day. So I kind of went back and forth on it and decided I'm doing it. And if people feel comfortable stopping by, that's great. And if people don't feel comfortable stopping by, I will certainly understand. But I'm not taking the year off. I'm going to do my normal Christmas tradition.
Well, okay. And see, you said a couple of things that have caught my attention. First of all, Roger Richards out there watching. So it's our streak of having at least one celebrity viewer out there continues after the last week, the Spider-Man McBride episode, which was so fun and got such great feedback. For him to come on the show and jump on and you guys to go back and forth about your little, ball busting history that you have. Like, to me, that's why people watch, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like that was not planned. That was just something that happened. So great stuff. But I do like the fact that you said, you had a low key Thanksgiving because big gatherings are discouraged, but you're going to do your Christmas thing because you think you can do it the right way. And isn't that all that they're asking us to do? Think about our situation, consider what is the right way to handle it, and handle it in the right way. And the problem with you, though, Alan, is I don't know if you've got enough room in your shop. And maybe if you cleared out some space, you might have enough room. But what about that?
You mean if only I could sell the rickshaw?
If only. Get the thing out of there.
Actually, on Christmas, the rickshaw is not an issue, because it looks a little bit like Santa's sleigh. And so normally I just put it outside in the morning, and assuming that it's not, drizzling, raining, or miserable, we will have, sleigh rides throughout the course of it. And Arizona sleigh ride is not exactly a one-horse open affair. Around here, it's a Corvair powered, wheelie affair. But no, the rickshaw is no longer. It found a new home this week, so it's
You
yeah,
sold
it's
the rickshaw.
no longer part of the collection.
That is a big milestone. Like, you've got to feel pretty great about it. You're playing it cool right now, but we've been talking about this for a long time, and you moved the rickshaw. The rickshaw has a new home. It's so exciting for that guy, whoever he is.
You know, the funny thing is I got calls from people. I was talking to a guy in San Diego. I was talking to a guy in L.A. I got a call from a guy in Salt Lake City the other day. There was a guy in Florida that reached out about it, that, you know, he'd either seen the car, knew something about the car, or, you know, we're just Corvair people that I guess somebody picked it up and put it on the National Corvair Owners website or club site. And so it got kicked around a little bit. But no, a guy called me yesterday, was in Phoenix, and he said, "You still have it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm coming to get it." Okay. And so he showed up a couple hours later with a truck and trailer and took the thing home. And I think he's going to enjoy it. He sounded like the kind of guy that needed that car. You know, I mean, I'm glad I bought it. It was fun. I had a pretty good ride with it. I had it for 4 years, and now it's got a new home. So,
well, we certainly milked it for all it was worth on this show.
Well, I'm afraid now that, you know, something stupid is going to just fall out of the sky, and I'm going to feel compelled because, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but I bought the rickshaw like weeks after I sold the hearse.
Yes, I do.
Because I got rid of one like stupid, wacky, worthless car that I bought because nobody else on the block had one. And I bought a stupid, wacky, worthless car that nobody else on the block had. And now that one has moved on, I'm just scared to death that something is going to come up and it's going to be, "Hey, you need a..."
Yeah. Okay. Let's explore a different avenue, as in you have covered stupid, wacky, worthless. Although I don't think the hearse was worthless. I enjoyed that experience. I felt connected to it. I was, you were looking for cars on the computer and you saw one and you found one and you bought it and you got it and you brought it to the race, and then Bo bought it and had that whole side thing. I mean, that was a really genuinely interesting vehicle, right? Like something that it was dark, it was creepy. It had didn't it have a casket? It had a casket, right? Yeah. It had a casket. That one was cool. The rickshaw, you got that from what? Roger Comstock. So that was, you bought it off his museum floor, if you will. So you've covered that part of the auto buying world. Let's try to go like useful, purposeful.
I have those.
Oh, well.
I have an everyday car that, you know, that is a nice, decent, clean driver.
Yes.
I have a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive diesel pickup, because sometimes you just need a pickup.
Yes.
I've got my 67 Mustang hot rod. I've got the chopper. I think I've got, you know, most of that. There aren't a whole lot of things that come up where it's like, gee, you know, if I had a vehicle that was capable of, then I probably have one. So that's where the stupid, wacky cars come.
I was reading a marketing deck years ago about NHRA fans when I was doing that pitch to XM to get them to do drag racing radio. And the most cars per person of any sport that exists, and it makes perfect sense, right? So you are one person and you have 3 vehicles and a motorcycle. So you are definitely NHRA demographics, like 3 in 1. You love cars, and that's why people support our sport. See, Scott says 101 days to the Gator Nationals, I guess. Monica saying that John's book was cool. Happy Thanksgiving. Joe and Alan, hope we had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I think we did. I did. And one thing we didn't talk about last week, Alan, which was probably the big news of the week, and that fail is on me, but we started the show kind of, you know, we're talking about Randy's passing and just the people that we had lost in a very challenging situation, and just kind of wrote it out. We did not talk about the big news of the week. The big news of the week was JC, John Collins, and team, who, because of the end of the Make-A-Wish and MD Anderson deal, they did not have a secure situation over there. Cruz Pedregon hired the entire team away to go be his team. And it's unfortunate for Tommy Johnson, obviously, but for Cruz Pedregon, a multi-time champion, a guy who's just been, I don't want to say, you know, bashing his head against the wall, but trying really hard to be able to just make a move like that, I just think it is so smart, and it is going to pay dividends in 2021.
I think so too. I think that, you look at Cruz over the past, 5 years or so, he has been making moves. He's been trying to find the right combination. Anybody that thinks all you got to do is hire Joe Castello and everything will be fine doesn't know anything about team sports. You have to have chemistry. You have to have guys that work together. You have to have guys that get along, especially all the time they spend on the road together. You have to have guys that communicate well, guys that are all kind of pulling in the same direction. You look at, I think Tom Brady is a perfect example. I think that
Yes.
you could easily make the example that, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback in the game today, certainly in the last decade. And he changed teams. That didn't make Tampa instantly a Super Bowl. I mean, it's an improvement, but because the support staff and the things and all of the stuff that was there, there's so much chemistry that goes on in NHRA drag racing in order to make it work. And for Cruz, he certainly has not been afraid to hire good people, pay them good money, do exactly what he's supposed to do, but he just never was able to click on that combination of everything that works. And when you're able to buy or hire a complete team, then I think you're going to see results. I literally think instantly. I think by the time we get 2 races into the season, you're going to see that Cruz has made a big step in the right direction, simply because the chemistry is already there. So they don't have to wait for that to develop. And, John Collins and the team, I don't know if you call it quietly, they finished second last year in the championship.
Oh, I know.
Behind Hagan. They won races. They went to finals. They were a competitive threat every single week. And I think that Cruz is instantly going to do that. If you look, the one guy that people probably could point to over the last couple of years and go, well, if you're going to hire Alan Johnson and you're instantly a top fuel contender. You're right. But when you hired Alan Johnson, Brian Houston comes with him.
Yep.
His team comes with him. You don't just hire Alan Johnson. You hire the team. And when the team comes in, takes over your stuff, all you got to do at that point is to be able to drive the car, and you're going to be competitive. And we've seen that over the years. When Alan Johnson went to John Forces, it wasn't just Alan that went over there. It was Alan and Brian and the nucleus of their team. When he went to Mike Salinas and the Scrappers team, they didn't just hire Alan; they hired the team, because Alan has put together a group of guys that have very good chemistry and that all speak the same language and understand, when I say this is what needs to happen, not, well, this will be close enough, or I think I think he meant this is what I want. And you've got to have that. And it just takes time to develop. If you can get a group that already has the chemistry, that is huge. And I think, I hate it for Tommy. I've known Tommy for 30 years. And, I hate the fact that right now, at least, it looks like he won't be out there driving. But that ain't Cruz's fault. And if I'm Cruz Pedregon and I have an opportunity to hire these guys as a unit, I'm bringing them. Remember NASCAR, it goes back a few years, but remember the Rainbow Warriors.
Yes.
They decided we want to make a move, and they put themselves out as a team.
Yep.
Anybody, it wasn't like, hey, I'm a jack man. I'm the best jack man out here. I want to go get a job. He knows he's only as good as the guys that are blasting the wheels off and on, because I don't care how fast he is, he can't let the car down until the tires run. And, all of the team put themselves together as a unit, went out and marketed the unit. And that's, whether you believe it or not, drag racing is a team sport, and Cruz just hired himself a championship team.
I like it. There's all kinds of different angles we could take. You think about like labor and baseball players unions and all that. Like, that gets crazy. But the unit is stronger than the individual. It's as simple as that. So JC gets hired by Cruz and has to go pick a bunch of guys and maybe doesn't get the right guys, and you can't recreate certain things. It's impossible to recreate. This was a team that made a move, and now they've got something to prove, and it's just a great story to follow. And it's great for Cruz, because behind Force and Caps, I think Cruz Pedregon has been, multi-time champion, one of our greatest ambassadors. He's a well-known guy. He's battled for since Jump. He's driven, for Joe Gibbs. He's a well-known guy. He needs to be winning. He's got Snap-on out there. He's got all those tool trucks out there. They need to win. And he made a big, bold move. That's exciting.
I agree. And, Cruz, if you look at his operation, it's interesting because, there have been some people on the net that, that always write the naysayers. Well, sure, he hired a guy, but he doesn't have a budget, he doesn't have stuff, and he doesn't have parts, and he's not going to yes, he's got everything he needs. Cruz is smart enough to know, I hired these guys, I know what they're capable of, I need to just do my part and drive the car. And if you look at Cruz's operation, look at the hospitality operation, look at the car when it comes to the starting line. It's always clean, always nice. It's always, he's not over there, squeezing nickels to get by the season. He's got the budget he needs. He's got the parts. And now he's got the team of people in place, because that's, I think, what was lacking was just the chemistry. He has had a lot of really good people over there over the course of the last few years, but he's never been able to quite click on that group chemistry that you need to make it work.
And Caleb Cox out there obviously works, he's the team. He says, we have a budget. But he could be meaning that in both ways. Like, we have a budget, but it's a budget that can get the job done. And I just wonder what Cruz is going to do. What is Cruz going to do now after spending a fair amount of time in and hands-on and in very, you remember the Juan Moto days, making all the decisions. And then last year, and we know why this happened, Eric and Nick going, the passing of Eric Lane, which was a tragedy. And this is in many ways, like, I'm sure a healing moment for Cruz, just thinking about the pain of that. But now Cruz can spend a lot of time doing his number two job. Number one, drive the car. Number two, be celebrity champion race car driver and get out there and sell and push.
That's actually number one. Driving the car is secondary to whatever the sponsor needs, to servicing the sponsor, start taking care of the fans, doing, the sponsor pays you to be out there and be an ambassador. Driving the car is part of that, but the most important thing you can do is be an ambassador. I've spoken to people hundreds of times over the years. I don't understand why Joe has this sponsor. He doesn't win. He's not in the championship. Why does Joe have this sponsor? Because Joe does what the sponsor needs, because Joe understands his job. Take care of the customers, take care of the fans, do what he needs to do to get exposure for that sponsor. And Cruz certainly knows that is his most important job. And I think this is going to help everything, because it's going to free him up. It won't surprise me if John Collins installed a lock on the lounge, just like Cruz, or he'll handcuff him out to the rope. I think it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment period, but Cruz is smart enough to know he hired guys that are really good at what they do. He needs to let them do it. And now he can focus on his job, which is making sure not just Snap-on, but all of his sponsors are taken care of.
Well, I think of John Force and Cruz in a similar way, similar era, similar like headstrong characters. And when John hired Alan, we heard hundreds of times about all the different stories about, even Brittany saying like, I can't talk to you, Dad, like, get out of here. And Alan, like, don't talk to my driver, that kind of thing, because John hired the guy. The decision that John made was to hire the guy. That's the decision. And so I think it'll probably be same with Cruz in that, like, man, you hired these guys, they're aces, and let them do their thing, and their thing it'll work out. And I also think about Cruz and Ron Tobler, the championship that they won, and that JC is in many ways spawn of Ron Tobler. He's definitely on the Tobler tree. So this is a way to get back to that. It's positive, it's exciting. They've got the Dodge bodies they switched to. A lot of, all the JC clutch stuff is coming in. They got a lot of parts and pieces. If you're a fan of Cruz, you've got to be happy.
Yeah, I think he's going to step up right away. When he made the switch to Dodge, and it was about the same time, he started buying chassis from DSR as well. So I don't expect John Collins to come in and have much of an adjustment period, trying to figure out, okay, his stuff, his parts, because so much of it is going to be familiar. I think if I'm Cruz, he's probably as mad as anybody that we're not going to start until March, because I guarantee it, he'd like to be on a racetrack tomorrow.
Yes, and it is 101 days according to our viewer out there. Seems like a long It seems like, is it 101 days? I guess we got all of December and we got all of January and we got all of February and we got half of March. The longest winter break that we have known, but everyone will be ready and positive and eager to get out there in the state of Florida for the NHRA opener, not just the East Coast opener for the first time. So this morning I did this deal with Ron Capps and Antron Brown here on WFO, known as Ron and Antron. And they were very fired up. It was kind of an industry deal. A lot of worldwide audience, sports cars, B2B, Formula One, and we're pitching drag racing, right? And I don't know if this is real or not, but I always feel that drag racing is kind of viewed as the oddity among drag racing, among motorsports, because we don't turn and everybody else is turning. And for some reason, I think of Shirley Muldowney. She won 3 championships, and in our world, she's a goddess. But 30 years later, some other ladies come into motorsports and it's like this most amazing deal. It's like, well, wait a second. Championships have happened in drag racing. So I just always feel that I don't want to say disrespected because that's maybe too strong, but just misunderstood as to all the details. And man, Alan, these guys brought it. Ron and Antron, just the personalities and the detail of what's going on out there on the track and the sport and the car and the crew chief and the lounge and the boardroom. And they A+ presentation. And to hear them go through something that I already know, it just continually excites me about Camping World, about having half of our races on the Fox Broadcast Network, big network next year. And as much as we are and have been going through a very difficult time, the immediate future is very bright.
It is. Hopefully we can get the pandemic under control, and so we can start having fans back in the stands, because the one thing that drag racing offers that nobody else offers, and I don't care how much they want to talk about it, nobody has anywhere close to the fan access that NHRA has. Nobody. And if we can't have full grandstands, if we're only allowed to have whatever the percentage is, 25% or 10% or whatever, that takes away from the NHRA experience, because we have faster cars than any of them. Yeah, we don't turn, I'll grant you that, but we have faster cars than anybody else. We have more powerful cars than anybody else. We have unlimited fan access, which nobody else even comes close to. And the biggest difference between drag racing and everybody else that you want to talk to out there, we're going somewhere. I love NASCAR. I'm not bagging on them. IndyCar, Formula One, World of Outlaws, whatever you want to talk to. They race and race and race and race, and then they have a start-finish line. You end up right where you started. We might not be going very far, but we're going somewhere. We're racing to there.
Yeah.
It's like, I can beat you to there, not I can beat you back to here. I can beat you to there. And that's the one thing that NHRA Championship Drag Racing has going for it. The tough sell for us, and you talk about Shirley, and obviously referencing Danica when she came into the NASCAR, and there's some ladies out there that are making some noise now, but in drag racing, it's just not news anymore. The ladies have been so successful, over 300 national event wins for female drivers among all of the categories. It's just not news anymore. You look at, and again, I'm not bagging on anybody, but you look at what Bubba Wallace does in NASCAR, and that's a big news story, right? I mean, just because of who he is, because of his background, because of his skin color, it's a big deal. In drag racing, you go, hey, Antron Brown won a championship. People go, right. You've had African Americans that have won for years. You've had Hispanics that have won for years. You've had females that have won for years. So it's just not news over here anymore. But one of the interesting things I think that Marcus Lemonis talked about when he did an in-depth interview about why he jumped in to NHRA through his Camping World brand was diversity. He said, you look at the diversity of the people on the track and look at the diversity of people in the grandstand. And again, I'm not bagging on any other sports, but the number of female fans that we have in the grandstands versus the number of female fans on a percentage that NASCAR has in the grandstands isn't even close. Because I think, the ladies want to come out and watch the ladies compete and watch them win. That's a big reason that NASCAR, that Danica is such a big deal in NASCAR, because there are a number of ladies out there that just want to see the female driver. They want to see the girls go up against the guys. And in NHRA, we have that daily, weekly, obviously annually. Erica with a championship again this year. And, we have that. And that's something that nobody else can offer.
It's very exciting. This thing I keep referencing, and later on today I'll be on with Tobe and Jimmo and Nikki and Kurt Elliott and doing a little bit more. I'm happy to have a gig by all means.
You should turn that into a happy hour. That would liven it right up.
Oh my God! Break out some beers. Let's do it. What's the worst that could happen, right?
Yep.
I'll tell
Tobler it's going to be Tuesday wine night.
Yes, exactly. Quick answer. Sammy Eubanks had asked if it was an official an alliance with DSR, and the answer is no. They are fully independent. It is not an alliance with DSR. Speaking of celebrities out there, Sammy Eubanks, who sings the national anthem at the first and last race, The Voice, everybody. Sammy Eubanks, who does some good stuff on his Facebook page, by the way. He'll get on there and play some tunes and have a little fun, which is kind of interesting. But the diversity aspect, I did a story, we always talk about your National Dragster column. I get one every once in a while. And one that I did last year was age diversity, which we're always talking about diversity, right? And I'm being from Miami, like there's no life without diversity. It's normal. And so I get what you mean. But at the same time, if people are handing out attention in mainstream books, magazines, TV shows, storylines, they should look at us because we've conquered the problem ahead of everybody. Like we figured it out. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you're from, what you look like in any way, shape, or form. We've got every form of diversity. We've got age diversity. We've got the older folks. We've got really young folks all competing together. I think Marcus Lemonis mentioned that recently. We've got chubby people. You know how many other sports have got chubby people, Alan? We got skinny little guys, race car drivers. We got big giant guys, race car drivers. Like you can't put an end on the diversity story. That's all I'm saying. I think we deserve a little more credit. We just need a little more credit.
But again, and I agree with you, but the issue is it's not news in NHRA. If a female driver was to win an IndyCar race or if a female driver was to win a World of Outlaws race, a NASCAR race, that would be like headline making news worldwide. In NHRA, it's just not news. It's normal. We have females that compete and win. We have, from every ethnic background and every, people that compete and win. And so it's not news anymore. It's just accepted that, drag racing is a speed for all. Let's just put it
speed for all, baby. We should use that. We should call NHRA people and say we came up with this great idea. Speed for all.
You should copyright that.
I admit though, this past weekend in one of the college games, there was a female soccer player, the COVID, etc. They had no players. They had a problem. They went to their college soccer team and she was their place kicker. And the team, I guess was it Vanderbilt? I don't know, but Vanderbilt. They were so bad that they never got her into field goal position. She got to kick the ball off once. But I was rooting for her. Like I wanted to see that moment. I wanted to see her have an opportunity to kick a field goal. I was interested in that. And I guess we're just beyond that in our evolution because it's old news and our girls kick everybody's butt. And Erica, victimizes the men out there. And I know when I started racing, like the first people that just hammered me and that I couldn't get around and I couldn't beat, they were all lady racers. And so it's not anything. In fact, it's scary. Like I don't want to say they have an advantage. They don't have an advantage, but I guess that's just, it is what it is. But seeing it affect other sports, it's I guess good. I just like for our sport to get some sort of acknowledgement as maybe one of the first places where it happened at all. You think about Billie Jean King, like Shirley was out there doing it. She deserves a lot of credit. And it wasn't always easy either. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're so welcomed. You're so welcomed into this sport. Come here and we'll write all kinds of stories about you. It didn't really happen like that back then.
No, but different time, different era. And, she paved the way. And all of the ladies that are out there racing today are very quick to give her credit. Shirley's the one that paved this path so that the ladies could come in behind her and not have to fight all those battles. But, it's come down to when Shirley was racing, even before she was really in her heyday, the guys hated to lose. You didn't want to get beat by the girl. Just as simple. You didn't want to. And if you did, you were going to get grief from everybody in the pits, and that's just the way that it was. But today, there's not a top fuel driver in the pits that loses to Leah Pruitt and gets beat up because, oh, you lost to the girl. You lost to a championship caliber race car driver and racing team. That's what you lost to. So, Shirley was the one that first started that path, at least in the pro ranks. There were a couple of ladies that raced prior to her in sportsman ranks and, stock and super stock cars. But, when you get into the real fast cars in sport, Shirley is the one that paved the way. And everybody out there that races today is still very thankful to her for doing that, for doing the heavy lifting and getting that fence knocked down or those doors blasted open or however you want to put it, so that the ladies of today come in and race and don't have to deal with all of that stuff that Shirley had to put up with.
I'm proud of that. I think that's worth being proud of. That's something good. And, maybe, who knows, maybe that's why one of the reasons that inclusive nature, why I love drag racing so much. It could be one of the reasons, and I don't even realize it. But let's move forward. I do have some, we have people out there with questions. You're welcome to put a question up there for Alan Reinhart. We used to do a segment called Stump the Dummy. We don't do that anymore. We call it questions for Alan Reinhart now. But for instance, Tom mentions, Bristol schedule, any news, any update? The last I heard, it's like, wait, things are being worked out. And I am under the impression it's still in that phase. Wait, it's being worked out. We still got a long way to go.
I haven't heard anything one way or another as far as, progress or lack of. I still expect it to be added. Bristol had been the Father's Day date for a few years. The date was moved this year just because of all the stuff that's going on. And I believe that there were some conflicts with the dates and things that have to be worked out. No matter how close it is to being done, until it's done, you can't officially announce it. And so, that's basically what we're waiting on now, is my understanding, just to get everything in place before the announcement is.
There you go. Okay. Sammy wants to know what's up. People scan the backgrounds. Nobody believes me, but people scan the backgrounds. Sammy wants to know what's up with the Wally. What's that Wally from, Alan? What are you doing with that Wally in the background there? That's what Sammy wants to know.
That's from Topeka, Kansas, 2003 Top Fuel.
Okay. So I'm going to have to do some searching.
Larry Dixon.
Yeah. All right. This guy's got a Wally.
Back then, NHRA was doing some experimenting with the announcers. They were bringing Crash Gladys was coming in and doing some of the stuff and working with us on the announce team. And the race after that, she was going to take my place, and I wasn't going to be there. It was going to be the first race that I wasn't going to since, 94, 95, I think. I had been at the racetrack for every one of Larry Dixon's professional races, and he and I are pretty good friends. And since I wasn't going to be at the next one, he won the race, and he presented that to me in the winner's circle and basically said, "Hey, we're going to miss you next race." And, dude, I'm coming back in 2 weeks, right? It's not a retirement party here, but meant a lot to me. And the reason it's here, I brought it down here when Brian and I were doing a shop talk episode and needed to use it for a prop. So I brought it down. But here's like a little helpful tidbit. If you win a Wally, you can order more. Okay. If Joe and Alan win the U.S. Nationals and we both want a trophy, we can order more. The one they give you at the racetrack,
isn't this great? This is great.
Has the sponsor logo on the bottom of it. Obviously, with the Powerade era. The ones you order do not have the sponsor logo. So if you ever look at somebody's Wally sitting in the trophy case, just tip it up and look at the bottom. If it's got the sponsor logo on it, that is the original one from the racetrack. If it doesn't have the sponsor logo on it, then that's a spare one that was ordered.
Very interesting tidbit. That's a nugget right there. People are getting out of WFO. That's why you should subscribe to the podcast, folks. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And how about Larry? Larry, it's been that whole thing that happened with Larry and the two-seat dragster and all that. I am under the understanding that he's got his license back and he's, able to try to come back. And I would love for that to happen because, again, legions of fans You want people to have an interest. You want them to have someone they know and love and relate to. And this guy was the winningest, him and Tony Schumacher battling back and forth, chasing Joe Amato. It would be so great to get that. I'm under the impression that he wants to try to do that. And I know he's a nice guy. Like, I know that. Like, Larry Dixon, one of the guys that never said no to WFO from the very beginning when we had 10 listeners, always came on the show. I know he's a nice guy, but for him to do something like that, for you to be aware of the situation and the potential, like, what's going on with that, and make a big stink about it, which is really what was good. That, like, Larry Dixon's stature just rose in my estimation from this. So, good story.
Larry and I are still, not best friends by any means, but we keep in touch. Whenever in India, I'll swing by the shop and see if he's there or what's going on or what's happening. And if not, then I'll go to his wife's chocolate shop, and that's give my secrets. Okay, Allie, come. What's the scoop? It's kind of become a running joke. I'll go by Larry's, and if he's not there, I'll stick a business card in the door just to let him know that he missed me. But no, we've I agree. I'd like to see him back out on the racetrack. He's a good guy. He's a good personality. He's got plenty of name recognition and plenty of fan base. So I think I'd like to see him back on the racetrack. Just like anything else these days, it's a matter of dollars. You've got to be able to get the things in place that you need from a sponsor standpoint to be able to go out there and compete.
As simple as that. And it's a land rush. A lot of people are talking about, I keep referencing this seminar, but there's others, Roger Penske talking about, like, the great, reawakening or whatever you want to call it, when we get to a point where we feel like we are over this. And what is that going to be like? People are really going to want to do some things. I think about our victory in World War II and the era after that, where people went out and they got on the roads and they bought houses and they wanted to just enjoy their lives. I feel like we're going to have something similar, and drag racing is going to be a part of it. All right, here's a question from unknown user about Garlits. Garlits questions always get asked. Did Garlits whitewash his car? I was just hearing about this the other day. Do you know about this story? I think it had something to do with figuring out the aerodynamics.
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, it's a just kind of a random question from a random user. I don't know who it is, but I do think that I recently heard that at one point Garlits was trying to figure out some of the aero, and pretty recently there was a Formula One race where it was in the rain. And speaking of that, we got to talk about Grosjean's crash. Oh my goodness! But you could see all the aero winglets and how they worked because it was a rain race and all the dirt and muck from the track got on the cars. And one of the comments in the comments section referenced Garlits and that he had perhaps whitewashed his car at some point to try to see some results of the aero, like maybe the whitewash would work. I think this is one that would be up Brian Lone's alley. We'll dig into that a little bit deeper, but Garlits, he was always focused on aero, the wing with the Swamp Rat 30, the streamliner, trying to punch a hole in the wind. That's something that his mind was occupied with.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he did something like that. I don't know anything about it, but it wouldn't surprise me. He was definitely a way ahead of his time thinker. Back in the 60s and through the 70s and even up into the 80s, he was always, looking for the next thing or the next deal or what can I do to build a better mousetrap. Speaking of Dixon, there was the running joke the one time where he had the sponsorship from the Yarn Barn. He had some aerodynamicists that he was working with, and they took a bunch of 1.5 inch or so pieces of yarn and taped them all on the wings and on the mud flaps and on everything, and then just put like a real light coat of oil on it and ran the car down the racetrack. And coming back, you could see where the yarn had hit or missed or not touched the oil, and that was giving him some ideas, some of the stuff. But it was pretty funny. The car would come around the corner and it's like all these little yarn things just screaming off of it everywhere at the top end of the racetrack.
Pretty cool. And CFD and wind tunnels and all of that. What's up with that? Like, why, for a period of time, that Ormsby streamliners trying to figure it out, it seems like almost now that aero, I don't want to say it's irrelevant because it's relevant certainly in pro stock, but in the nitro cars, funny cars, downforce, but are they just making so much power that it's not significant to try to cover the front wheels, all that? I guess this would be a good question for my crew chiefs later.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they've learned enough about the airflow over the years. Top fuel car is pretty dirty in the air, but in order to clean it up, you have to make it heavier. And I think what most of the guys have determined now is that the weight savings overcomes the aerodynamic minus. The weight plus overcomes the aerodynamic minus. You look at the front wings and the things they're doing. They can kind of kick the air around the front tires if they need to, without having to cover them up. You'll notice that years ago, the front end of a top fuel car or any dragster really was almost a needle point. And now they are considerably higher because they've learned over the years from an aerodynamic standpoint, a needle point isn't the way to go. You want to have that kind of blunt nose to punch the hole in, and then it works the rest of the car through it. Every streamlined car that I know of, and I saw Ormsby's car run a few times, was given up because it was too heavy. If the weight of the car causes it to slow down so much in the first, say, 300 feet, before the aerodynamics take effect, before you're going fast enough that the aerodynamics take effect, that you're being penalized for the last 1,000 feet of the racetrack, that's not a good trade. So you take the weight off the car and go back to the performance that you had there.
That makes sense. You only got 1,320 feet or 1,000 feet now, and it's all about compromises and balance. But boy, do those streamliners look cool. I remember that year with Ormsby's car, and I think I saw it at the Gator Nationals for a session, maybe, I don't know, and Garlett's in '86, I guess that was, for Swamp Rat 30, experimenting with crazy stuff, and people love to see that. Now it's maybe a little more advanced, and we'll see. Oh, look, now super celebrity Brett Kepner out there. See, he's at, well, we might as well ask him, answer the whitewash question. Boy, the show, people love Alan Reinhart, it must be. Alan, people love Alan.
Yeah, that's probably it. I'd like to know how Brett's doing. I know he was dealing with some health issues, and I hope that he's coming out on the good side of that now. I mean, he's you talk about a guy that's got a lot of knowledge. Brett Kepner can quote stuff that happened before drag racing happened.
No, he's got some sort of savant thing going on. Let's just not call it like they're not a normal human being. Sorry, Brett, but you're not. And it's just the way it is. Like, there are some people, they retain certain things. Apparently, he can get you to the coordinates of every drag strip that ever happened on the planet. But a very sharp guy. I got to spend a little time with him as well. So, he's never been on WFO. There's a stat for you, Brett Kepner.
Yeah,
maybe
you can fix that.
I'm trying to achieve the stature at some point. I would like to achieve the stature where that could happen, because I know he was a draw. Certainly, I grew up with him. All right, Warren says, Joe and Alan, when Cruz hired the Tommy Johnson crew for 2021, did anyone from Cruz's crew stay on? I don't know the answer to that, but I think the answer is no, is what I think, based on the conversation I just had.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Is there one person who maybe stayed on? That I do not know, but I know that the full team has been hired. JC, Rip, Ryan, they started today, and the rest of the team will start later in the month. So, was there one person who maybe stuck around? I do not know the answer to that question, but I know that the, John Collins' assembled team over there will be.
Caleb would know if he wants to chime in.
Yes, if he's still out there. I think Caleb is still recovering from the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. fight. Now, Alan, did you watch that? It was a $50 ticket. All right, so it was a $50 fight. Two old guys. Tyson's 54. Roy Jones is 51. These are older gentlemen, right? Older than me, but not older than you. Just saying. And I had to see it because I was, back in the day, Mike Tyson, when I was a kid, Mike Tyson was this insane character that came out of outer space and just did everything totally different, changed boxing from boxing into a game of knockout. And how would he be at 54? What would that be like? Let me tell you. Very scary and very entertaining. I mean, it wasn't a great fight by any means, but for two 50-year-old former heavyweights, it was pretty good. It was worth the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get hit by him. I'm just not a big fight fan. It's just not my sport.
Oh, there you go. Well, you and Nate Robinson agree on that, which I don't know if you know what I'm referencing, but someone is laughing hysterically out there. Nate, former basketball player, decided he wanted to get in the fight game, and it turned out really bad.
That didn't go well.
Epically bad. I'll send you the link. Very bad. Like one of the worst it's be. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Tony says that Brett has been on Clay Milliken's podcast. Yeah, everybody's got a podcast now, Alan. It's like everyone has got a podcast. They're all got podcasts. Clay's got podcasts, and I love it. I feel like a trailblazer.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I'm with you.
There it is. There it is. So as we get ready for the holidays, what's going on with these teams? Like we mentioned that these guys are starting at Cruise today. So what's to do? And we've had this weird season where we had this huge break where all the shops got reorganized. How would you use your time wisely in this long winter break?
Well, I mean, you obviously want to inventory everything. You want to inspect everything. You want to make sure, because once we get started, we're going to hit it pretty hot and heavy. You know, assuming that we can go back to racing and we can put fans in the stands and that we can run the schedule as it's posted, there's not going to be a lot of time off once we get going in March. So now's the time when you've got to get all your stuff in place, your inventory. You know, as we talked about a little bit last week with Spider-Man, the real racing takes place in the shop. You just go to the racetrack to prove that you were working in the shop. And so that's what the guys are doing now. You don't want to get to the racetrack and start thinking, gee, do we have enough of this? Do we have one of those? Did we ever check this out and make sure it works? So that's what you're doing right now, is just going through all of that stuff, organizing everything, and getting it ready to go. Because when you get to the racetrack, there simply isn't time to do that.
No, it's, and we'll find out who gets ahead as we think about this upcoming season. I think about teams that have got a great opportunity, something to prove. I'll be speaking with them a little bit later. Jim Oberhofer, Paul Lee, what a great end to 2020 that they had. I think that they have, or should have, got all their like new team blues out of the way and should come out in 2021 and contend for Wally's. I'll be speaking with those guys a little bit later. Jimmo, Tobler, Nicky, and Kurt Elliott. Kurt, who won the U.S. Nationals this year, big deal. Some crew chief talk. As the guy who does Nitro School, what should I throw out into the water as chum to allow these guys to really wow the audience, if I may ask you for a little fodder?
Well, I don't think that there's any major rule changes coming down the line. So basically what all the guys are going to be doing is kind of refining what they already have. You know, there isn't a big new area of exploration that I'm familiar with. You know, the 4 versus 5 disc clutch conversation is going to be continuing to go on, but there hasn't been any big step in technology or any big rule change that everybody has to adjust to. It's just going to be a matter of refining. So, you know, what the guys are down to now, I think more than anything, is minimizing mistakes. You know, you mentioned Paul Lee. I can think of about 3 runs last year that he would give anything to have back, because they could have legitimately changed the outcome of the day and, you know, potentially, you know, some of the big stats at the end of the season. You look at the number of times when, you know, there was at least 3 or 4 times when, I don't know about you, but I'm looking at the sheets going into Sunday going, you know, Paul Lee can win this race. I mean, doesn't need a fluke, doesn't need luck. He just needs to go out and perform and make it happen. And it didn't. And so I think there's a few of those that he would like back. You know, from the crew chief standpoint, it's kind of fun to just throw the ball in the air and let him go a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Clipping the block with low ET a first round out there at one of those first Indy races. All right, we're wrapping this deal up. A couple of questions straggling in. First of all, Brandon says the fight looked like bad dancing tryout with the Dancing with the Stars. These guys are 50, man. Tyson hadn't been in the ring for 15 years. Tony asked about John Force's plans. I'm letting that play out. Same answer as previous guys. When John wants to know, there's no way you won't know. Like if you like
I expect to see John back on the racetrack. I don't know how many cars he's planning on running, but I expect to see John back on the racetrack.
Okay, Jason wants to know, what about the Scrappers, though? That's a good question. Has there been an official statement from the Scrappers team on returning in 2021? I haven't seen an official statement, but I'm under the impression that it is.
I haven't seen an official statement either, so I don't. I can't even speculate. I've got no information on that. I'll try to get something for next week.
Okay. With all the discussion of safety in motorsports going on because of the Roman Grosjean Haas F1 crash, will you think we'll see the canopy mandated in Top Fuel anytime soon? First of all, you say no about mandated. Did you see that crash?
I did. Yes.
Notice by the way, he did not have a canopy. He just had some sort of frontal protection. That halo saved his life. Clearly, not so crash, like one of the worst I've seen. Of course, a debate breaks out on WFO's Twitter about, was it the worst crash ever? I don't want to make that list. There's been a lot of really bad crashes. I'm real happy that we got lucky on this one. As far as mandating, spoke with Torrance a couple of weeks ago about this. His feeling is that this new high, thick windscreen accomplishes just about the same thing for that level of protection, something coming into the cockpit.
Yeah, I think there are guys that have said they wouldn't drive a car without one. There are guys who have said, I wouldn't get in one of those things. So, I don't know. I think that, like anything else, it depends. Are there going to be times when that's better? Probably. Are there going to be times when that's potentially worse? I would think so. If you get a Top Fuel car that's on its side up against the wall with an open cockpit, you can get out of it. With a canopy, you can't. And so I think, there's a little bit to see on both sides. The one thing about the F1 deal and I don't know, I'm not a big follower of F1. I follow, basically American motorsports more than anything. And I'll check out a highlight here or there, but I'm not a huge follower of F1. I was stunned that when you think about the budget that those guys play with and the money they spend and the things that you could hit Armco with one of those cars. I would not think anywhere on the racetrack you could hit Armco with a race car in Formula One, and I was really surprised to see that.
Well, I think you're not the only one, and the last thing we want to do is be critical of anyone who's trying to do whatever they're trying to do. It's tracks in Bahrain, right? And remember that quote about T. Wayne Robertson and the RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company that Angel told us. We have a lot of problems here at the RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company, and money is not one of them. I feel the same way about Bahrain. They have some of the most amazing everything. The facility is top notch, and yet they have Armco, which we know that has been killing drivers for many, many years, and we got way away from it. And he went through Armco barriers, like plunged through it, pierced it, and somehow survived. The car, like a cheese grater, the second half of it got grated off in a big fire. He was in the fire for felt like 15 seconds. Talked about this extensively on the Ignition show, but what's up with that? I can't figure out how one of the chutes that kicks out, very similar to the Blaine Johnson incident, where a safety truck could maybe dip out from behind, but increasing that critical angle, it was just an obvious recipe for disaster, and the race cars found it. They always do.
Well, I think, and I don't know. I'm purely speculating, and I wasn't in any way, shape, or form, pointing a finger at these guys did something wrong. I was just surprised to see it. And I think, and we saw it in NASCAR a lot too over the years. I think most of it has been fixed now, where as they're laying out, they're going, okay, the cars are going this way, the cars are going this way. Here's a trouble spot, here's a trouble spot, here's a trouble spot. There's no way anybody could ever hit this.
Right.
So we don't worry about that. And then, as you just said, race cars will find a spot. If you remember when Kyle Busch busted his ankles and was knocked out of the car for a while, and Brian France, who at the time was the president of NASCAR, came on and he said, this is on us. We should have done a better job. But when you look at the layout of there's no way a car could ever hit that until it does. That surprised me when I saw it, because I really figured that, in that, that arena and in that series, that everything would have been addressed. But I think it just goes to show that, you can't address everything. You learn when things happen, and then you react. Fortunately, there was a good outcome in this. He got out of the car, he walked away, and I saw his tweet from the hospital the next day where, some burns on his hands, and I thought that was kind of interesting too. His fire suit was a -20. His gloves were -10. So he's laying in a hospital with his hands bandaged up, and the rest of him's fine. what do you want to bet he's got Dash 20 gloves the next time he gets back in the car?
Yeah.
And, there's things like that you learn as you go. And then as things come up, then you adjust for them, whether it's making a rule change or whether it's just a driver going, I'm not doing that again. One of the things I remember for years when Kenny Bernstein started driving the Top Fuel car, he was wearing funny car boots. And I don't want to say people made fun of him, but there were a lot of people that's like, Kenny, you're not in a funny car. You don't need funny car boots. And he said, why not? Dragsters catch on fire too. Things happen. When Shelly Anderson flipped her car over backwards in Brainerd in the 90s, I think the only injury she had was her ankles got burned because the car's backwards, it's sliding, it's on fire, the fire's coming into the cockpit. And she had dragster shoes as opposed to funny car boots, which gives you a small area that maybe isn't as protected as it could be. But, nope. Nobody ever got hurt from wearing too much safety equipment that I know of. And so, I think that this is something they'll take a look at. So do we need to change a rule, or do we not need to change a rule because everybody's going to go, okay, that ain't happening to me. I'm going to fix it, rule or no rule.
Yes, and I expect we'll be back. They will be back racing. And when I say we, I feel like this auto racing universe is connected one way or another. They'll be racing at the same track this week. I bet they have something different in that area.
I've actually been to that Bahrain racetrack, by the way. It's pretty spectacular.
Well, exactly. I thought of you because I thought didn't you just get a personal phone call from like the King of Bahrain or something the other day?
From Sheikh Abdullah, not from the King, but from Sheikh Abdullah.
Okay. Well, get it done, Alan. Make some calls. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Like we need.
Yeah, I'll care about that. No, I was very flattered when Sheikh called me. He called and just wanted to pass along through me his appreciation to everybody at NHRA for the program, and very happy with his investment and with the cars over here, and talked a little bit about do they love pro mod racing? Yes. Is that why they're here? No. They're there to promote the fact that Bahrain is a business friendly community for anybody that wants to get involved in business in that part of the country. They'd like to talk to you. They'd like to see if they can get involved, if they can help.
I wonder, do they have an official Bahrain podcast? I wonder. Alan, great job as usual. Any final thoughts? I see Top Fuel 173 asks if there's going to be any new classes added to NHRA national events in the next 5 years. I think that Top Fuel 173 asked that question last week, and we answered it with our track prep for like radio versus the world is so different that it can't happen answer. If memory serves me right, I think the answer is pretty much no.
I have not heard of any new stuff coming, but who knows? NHRA certainly, as they've shown a lot over the last 5 years, they are certainly not opposed to inviting other groups and other folks to come out and at least get a taste of what we do, and show their fans what we do and show our fans what they do. Hopefully that'll continue. Just two things before we go. One, I want to kick out, as always, announcer at NHRA.com. If you got questions, comments, anything like that, I got a couple on my recent National Dragster column, which I talked about, literally that it was a pretty good year. Obviously not overall, but
right.
For Aaron Stanfield in particular, and then pointed out some others. And I got some feedback on, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? And I appreciate that. I love, having a chance to chit chat with the fans. And then one other thing I think we need to mention, we usually start with this, but Steve Federlin passing away this last week. He was a huge player for a number of years in the alcohol dragster ranks. Also, gave a lot of drivers an opportunity to drive his car and step into the ranks. He was a multiple-time division champion and championship contender, and he passed this last week. So just for Patty and his family and everybody out there, one of us, send him wishes.
It doesn't end. It is unfortunate. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And congratulations on getting rid of the rickshaw. We're in December. We're on the final stretch of the 2020 year, which is a good thing. Really appreciate you coming on, having these conversations on Tuesday at 1:00. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And, we'll see you next week. Looking forward to it. Thank you for doing it. And that's all I got. Thank you, Alan.
All right. Take care. Enjoy your crew chief roundtable this afternoon. I will be watching and listening. I think it's going to be an interesting talk.
Excellent. I do too. Feel free to tell, if you got anything like you want to hammer one of these guys with backhandedly, I'll be the guy to do it. Thank you.
Good to know.
There he goes. Alan Reinhart with us here on WFO Radio. Way to go. Well, we got Alan Reinhart out there. We got Brett Kepner is watching. We got The Voice, Sammy Eubanks, who sung the national anthem at the Winter Nationals and the Dodge Finals. Claims to be the first person in the same season to do it, and I can't dispute him. So regarding that Armco conversation, we delved into it a little bit more deeply, or maybe not more deeply, but certainly more emotionally on the Ignition podcast, which went from, tragedy to comedy, where we talked about Nate Robinson getting knocked out. If you've never heard the Ignition podcast, it's very different than this show. There's no facade of professionalism or any of that. It's just hopefully entertainment. So you can check that out. That is in the archive. Later on today, I will be doing that crew chief roundtable. eparttrade.com. It is free. This is the time of year where we would normally be at the PRI trade show and all together and freezing outside in between wonderful interactions with the racing community. As you know, and you know why, we haven't been able to do it this year. The folks at ePart Trade decided to get together and do an online thing. And they do. They have people from 110 countries around the world connecting online via Zoom. I was honored to be invited to be one of the presenters, and yesterday doing some very interesting things with Danny Nolan about chassis dynamics, really exciting stuff. This morning we started with Ron Capps and Antron Brown talking drag racing, and today at 5 o'clock, if you sign up, and you can sign up for free, you will see Nikki and Jimmo and Tobe and Kurt Elliott. And really, I got to kind of set things up. I would love for them to all be able to be on the screen at once. I think that will work. And just going to wind them up and let them go. I've always believed that the crew chief character is the character who makes it all go. Yeah, the drivers get all the star power and all the attention. They do. The driver did this, the driver did that. And ultimately, the driver gets it to the stripe and wins the race. But without the crew chief, the team seems to take on the character of the crew chief, at least in my experience. And it will be a lot of fun. So sign up, obviously, and there's a question and answer section, a chat section that you'll be able to ask questions as well. That's coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern. You can sign on right now. Not now. Don't do it now. You got to wait. I see you guys out there, all you people that hang on for Alan Reinhart, and the second he dips out are gone. I know you guys. Let's see what Monica says. Ignition show is a fun show. That's it. It's a fun show. There's laughing. There's fun. There's poking fun at each other. It's entertaining. And I think Tuesday morning is a great time to listen as soon as it's available. It's kind of getting that Tuesday morning vibe. So put your comments in the comments section. Questions, comments. Do that now as we get to the final comments on the show. And in the meantime, I will tell you about a couple of things. Like, for instance, the new WFO store section. So I always wanted to have a section on WFOradio.com where I could put things that I think are cool for people to buy and get a kickback. And now it's a reality. For instance, Snake's new book is there. You want Snake's new book? Snake's going to come on the show this next month. Snake's new book is there. You want Snake's book? Go to WFOradio.com, click on it, and you can buy it. The new Warren Johnson book by Kelly Wade, which is going to be very interesting. That is available for pre-orders or orders. It is up there on WFOradio.com, along with many others like John, who did this several years ago and came on the show. John wrote for National Dragster, did the Pro Stock Beat for a long time. Great writer, older gentleman. When we first started the show, we did not have the ability. I could tell people to, go out and buy this book, but I did not have the ability to give you a place to go buy the book other than the link. This thing is fantastic if you're looking for gifts, just because it's artwork. It's artwork. And if you like artwork, to me, like, there's this nexus between drag racing, motorsport, and art. Think about Geron. Think about Kenny Youngblood. Think about all of the people that are artists, like genuine artists that find work and career and money in drag racing. Because is it a drag race or is it a car show? In fact, right now, NHRA has just put out a new Attention in the Pits show. It is out there, shared on our WFO Radio Twitter, and it will be shared on our WFO Radio Facebook page. You will hopefully share it often with Bob Mandel Jr. and Bob Mandel III with their wicked 55 Chevrolets, self-built. These are self-built cars, folks. Now, that's their profession. They're chassis builders. But if you want to just go crazy for how amazing a car can be, is it a race car or is it a work of art? Why would you do this? Check that out as Attention in the Pits on NHRA's social media, and please share it as often as you can. But go to WFOradio.com and check out all the different stuff we've got on there and different toys. And if you see something that you think should be there, email me, joe@WFOradio.com, and we'll put it up there. Because I also want it to be kind of a community section where people, like, Joe, this is a good thing. Here's one. I'll just make up something off the top of my head. I remember when I first got my Sonicare toothbrush. Like when I first got that, I was doing this until I got my Sonicare toothbrush, and I was like going door to door, telling people about Sonicare toothbrush and how amazing it was. Like that's something that's going to be there because it's just so head and shoulders above everything else. So check out our WFO Radio store, and of course our sponsors who. They're the ultimate gifts, like Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure at frankhawley.com. Think about sending a good friend down the track. Like that looks like fun to me. frankhawley.com. Courses start at $399. Is that a lot? Is it a little? It all depends on who you are and what your means are. But I can tell you that 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you'll still be thinking about the experience. That couple of dollars, you will have burned through it literally thousands of times over. So that's what life is about, experiences. TotalSeal.com. The leader in ring seal technology, Total Seal. We do a podcast for them called Hidden Horsepower. A lot of great stuff on there. New episodes coming out all the time. We encourage you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts. Write us a positive, glowing, extremely positive 5-star review. We would appreciate that. But it's all an exercise to learn about ring seal. There are engine geeks and people who are really interested that want to know about this stuff. And I have learned so much about ring seal, sizing, gas ported rings, all of these different things, profilometers. It's interesting. And who was it who said, the wisdom that you get? Hang around with people. Make sure this is the crass paraphrase, right? Be the dumbest person in your crew. Be the stupidest person that you hang out with. And that will make you a better person because you will learn from all of those around you. Tony Schumacher says something very similar all the time. Like if you're the smartest person of all your friends, you got problems. You're running with the wrong crew. Now, we're not saying to ditch all of your friends. We're saying as a matter of practice, if you want to be smarter, be better, get better, you need to be around smarter, better people. And these are the kind of things that obviously Total Seal knows, and they're teaching with their great podcast. So check them out, TotalSeal.com. If you're building an engine, know an engine builder or someone who's having it done. And how do you get that knowledge? And that's why these two are connected. Samtech.edu. It's school, right? You're a parent, you got a kid, your kid is wayward, he's playing Fortnite every day, 24 hours a day. And he's plugged in all the time and he doesn't like anything else. Yeah, you got a situation that's pretty common out there. And I know it well. And samtech.edu, you want kids to have passion for what they do. You'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. Like here on WFO Radio, genuinely left the studio 1 a.m. last night after finishing the Ignition show, posting it. Poker Action Line show, posting it, was up bright and early preparing for Antron and Ron Capps, and we'll continue on throughout the day. It's going to be great. Love it. Why? Because I like doing this stuff, talking about racing, interacting with the audience, I love fighting with people on the online. We don't do that enough. There's got to be more of that. But if you love engines and working on cars, late hours, Samtech, great place to go. Samtech.edu. Go to the website, call Brian Massengill personally, demand him. Tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. Maybe you don't care about any of that and you just want a little coffee and to enjoy your day and stay the heck away from everybody. That's fine too. And I brought in the prop the Rodax Locked and Loaded Organic. Imagine getting this for your clients. You know those mask gifts. My dad had a construction company, and at the holidays, we would go to the liquor store and he would load up on like bottles, right? Like just various stuff, whiskey and vodka and everything. And he would go around to all the different clients, job sites, his best employees, and he would be Santa Claus and he would dole it out. And I learned a lot about those experiences. Number one, networking and making people happy and having fun, getting somebody nice, good for a job well done. And to me, bag of Rodax coffee to the door of a good client or a great employee or someone who you love and care about is a great way to do it. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. And the website is up in the WFO store. Just click it. 817-924-6821. And he's got all kinds of blends, but I thought maybe you guys would be interested in seeing what I am drinking over the next month or so, because this will last me a month. And the Bali Organic Blue Moon. And I know everybody is interested in coffee. Like, come on, we're all into it. We're all into the coffee. And these are the people who make it possible. And you can get to Nitro Fish Racing and the WFO radio store, and you can definitely get one of these face masks. Sent out a bunch this morning. This is definitely a cop-out gift. But sometimes you need one of those. Perfect stocking stuffer. $10. You get a couple of WFO radio stickers. Come on now. Can't believe I have the audience retention that I do during this segment. Thank you for watching, all of you people out there. You can tell I'm being silly from time to time, but that's how we promote the show. We do not have a huge marketing budget. We are definitely at WFO, the mom and pop store, going up against the big corporations, the MRN, the PRN, the XM Sirius, and there's WFO. A genuine privateer mom and pop organization, except I'm nobody's pop. I'm just me. So if you want to get a stocking stuffer for $10, WFO radio face covering for the drag racing fan, a couple of WFO stickers, I'll send it out. No shipping. I should totally be doing 2 for $20. What's wrong with me? Go to the WFO store and click on it. You can play with PayPal. You can pay with PayPal. You can play with PayPal. You can do it all. And one more final pitch. The Patreon show. These people are VIP listeners that are members of our VIP listeners club, and they kick in like a monthly. And I feel like they're getting more and more benefits. The latest benefit has been the ability to watch the Ignition show as it is recorded. There's something for the Patreons, and a couple of them have taken up the offer. And it's been a bad decision by me because all of a sudden I got to be ready to be seen, which, you're not always ready to be seen. All right, enough of me. Let's see what everybody else has to say. Oh, it's Roger Richards. Thanks for a good show. No, thank you, Roger Richards. Thank you for being a positive energy out there at the track in the NHRA and being a wonderful character that is genuinely and universally loved. I love the fact that when I see Roger Richards, I know I've got something fun and funny and witty and a great comment. He does the burnout on his little scooter. Way to go, Roger. Thank you for being you. Let's see what Jim Norris has to say. Another good show, thanks. Yeah, Jim doesn't get the glowing Roger Richards thing. Scott says, where do we sign up for the show later? eparttrade.com. I'll throw it up in the comment section. And since they have hired me, which is like when someone hires me to do something, I try to go all out. And when we have WFO, and I've got an audience of drag racing people that'll be interested, and we're going to have a bunch of drag racers on there, and I'm going to be on there, why would I not drive you guys there? eparttrade.com. Sign up. It's free. You're watching on Zoom. They're going right now. They're going all day tomorrow. They're going all day the next day. They had Linda Vaughn last night for happy hour. They're trying to do a really good job. It's very interesting and fun. And I pop on there for certain segments. I'll be doing the 5 o'clock with the Nitro Crew Chiefs, eparttrade.com. Time for a new mask. Yeah, these masks don't last forever, and you got to wash them, folks, and you should let them air dry. Yeah. Sorry, people. If you thought that wearing a mask was going to be like a 2-month thing, it's not. Like your drawers. You need to buy new drawers every once in a while, gentlemen. You got to buy them. All right. This is not a one-time purchase. Neither is the mask. They get worn out. They get gross. They get lost. You got to wash them. Might as well rock WFO. Great show. Thank you, Facebook user. I really appreciate you. Thanks for posting some pictures of the race car. Great Ignition show. Also, Well, thank you very much, Scott. Oh, I think he means my race car Facebook is so great because I went racing 3 years ago. I shared it. Citrus Nationals. People thought I went racing this weekend. I don't even have to go racing ever again. I'll just keep sharing those photos over and over again. No, I got big plans. We're going to get back out there very soon as is possible. Thanks to Alan Reinhart. And what's Randy say? Great show as always. Thank you, Randy, and thank you for sharing the show or starting a watch party. We did some best of WFO over Thanksgiving. It's hard for me to unlearn a lot of the stuff that I learned years ago, but I'm okay. I'm getting there. I'll give you an example, like best of, right? Like best of. Like there was a time where we would take all the shows that we did and the great interviews, and we would repackage them into a new audio file that would be called best of. And we put it out for the holidays. It's like, it took some work. I'm just going to share the stuff the first time and call it best of WFO. And the Jeg show went great. We had a tremendous interview with Jeg about his life, career, showing all kinds of great photographs. It was amazing. Erica is in the archive. We got Brian Warner coming on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, talking super stock. This is where I learn about the racers because you've got the universe of stock, super stock racers, right? You'd think they would want the attention for the category, for the style of racing, for what they do. But it's not them. It's some other person who is the champion, who conquered them. Do they promote the class, even though it's not them? Or do they not bother? It's been interesting to watch, because I try to post it in the stock and super stock groups and stuff like, hey, man, Jody Lang. I thought Jody Lang was awesome in the archive. Thank you to all you listeners out there. Brett Kepner, we got to get you on the show, bud. Now that we've seen you. Can we do that? December, January, something like that, at your convenience. All right, everyone. Thanks to Alan Reinhart, of course. Thanks to all our Patreons, everyone who supports the show. These people, they've done a great job, as have you. If you watch the eparttrade.com thing, it's coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be a lot of fun. See you then. WFO.